The Permian Basin has been hit hard with water conservation rules and regulations, and now a lot of lawns and plants are suffering. Earlier this week, Dr. Mark Slavens of the Scots Training Institute spoke with us about saving your plants. Dr. Mark, I got to tell you, we're in the middle of a terrible drought. Many people have let their lawns go because of water restrictions. Is there anything you can do for their lawns?
Yeah, actually, there are some things you can do to make your lawn more successful. And one of the most important things you can do is feed your lawn. When we only water, the water has to work really hard. But if we apply beneficial nutrients or essential nutrients that your lawn can use to develop deep roots and outcompete weeds, which try to steal water from our lawns, it'll help it be more successful and tolerate those hot and dry conditions better.
All right. Dr. Mark, would it be easier to keep plants alive in contained gardens? Because I know you're an expert about that. What are those exactly?
So container gardening is becoming really popular, and it's a way that we can raise our garden beds and have a little bit more control over preventing weeds and how we regulate the moisture in those soils. And so, yeah, you can have some really great conditions to grow plants. You want to use a lighter material for your soil, so you can mix garden soil with potting soil, but you don't ever want to use a straight native soil or just dig up a big mound of soil when you're doing that. But they're a good option to use. They're becoming very popular, and it's a great way to get into gardening if you've never done it before.
All right, Dr. Mark, for amateurs like myself, what are some spring garden tips for our area that are easy to implement?
You know, when we're starting to think about gardening for the year, a little preparation goes a long ways. So when we're establishing our garden, we want to go look at that site. We want to look to see how much sun it gets during the day, how much shade it has. So when we go to our nursery store or our Home Depot or our Lowe's, wherever we shop, we pick plants that are adapted or they're going to fit best for that location. Now, there's a lot of really good plants you can choose. There's native plants, and there's also adapted plants. So talking to your local professionals, seeing what works best in your region is a really good idea. But one of the things that a lot of people don't do, and I see this happen all the time, I'll see them leave stores, and all they'll have are the plants in their cart. They don't think about the plant food, and they don't think about the soils that they're going to plant. And so when you're planting in a container, you want to use a really high-quality potting mix or potting soil. It's going to hold water really well. And if you're planting in the garden, you want to amend that garden soil with compost or organic matter that will be found in something like Miracle-Gro garden soil that helps to retain moisture so your plants don't wilt or dry out as quickly. It also helps to provide nutrients so that they have the essential...
Dr. Mark, we're running out of, forgive me for interrupting, we're running out of time. We got 20 seconds. What would you recommend some plants that survive best in a drought?
So there's a lot of great plants. Oak trees are native to Texas. They do really well if you need to plant some trees in your landscape. We also have native grasses that work really well. Buffalo grass, blue grama is a great alternative. And then some great garden plants would be Texas gold columbine, cornflower, or lantana.
All right, we're going to have you back on the air again soon, Dr. Mark. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're out of time, and we're going to have you back on, and we'll look forward to talking more about this next time, all right?
All right, great. I appreciate it.
Dr. Mark Slavens, manager of the Scots Training Institute Southwest, thanks very much for joining us. Many West Texans are trying to keep their thirsty yards alive. Dr. Mark Slavens, manager of the Scots Training Institute Southwest region, joins us now to give us some advice on how to save our yards. And first, Mark, let's talk about a few myths. I hear that there are some about when it comes to taking care of your lawn and your plants.
Yeah, there are. And Mike, I'm aware that you guys can only water once a week. And so one of the myths that a lot of people do is they think if they feed or fertilize their lawn, it'll actually make them use more water. But it's actually the opposite. If you fertilize your lawn and then water it in afterward during that time you have to water, it'll help your lawn survive a little bit better. So that's, myth number one that needs to be busted. And then also a couple other ones. People often remove their clippings when they're mowing their lawn. We don't want you to do that. They think it'll add to thatch. Actually recycle or mulch those clippings back down, and it will return some nutrients and good things back to the soil. That's really important to do as well.
All right, I'd heard about that, and I do the same thing with my lawn, although there's not much of it left right now because of the drought. Let's talk about bugs, because most of us out here in West Texas have problems with different kinds of bugs on our lawn.
Yeah, so probably with it being dry, one of the most common bugs that you're experiencing are fleas. And so fleas are a pretty tricky one to control, because if you have pets, they'll come in your house and they're scratching all the time. So we want to, if we're controlling fleas, we want to treat inside of our house. We want to treat the pet beds, treat the pets. But one of the most important steps that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to insects in their home is treating outside of their home to prevent them from coming in. And so,
what should they use for that, Mark? How should they treat it? What kind of product?
So there's a great product called Ortho Bug Be Gone for lawns. It's a granule product you can just apply to your lawn and water in. Mm-hmm. It'll control fleas for about 3 months. Does a great job. It'll also control things like scorpions or ants, a lot of those pesky insects you'll have in and around your home.
Okay. Folks out here in West Texas, we love our fresh vegetables. A lot of folks out here garden in some of our outlying areas and some in town. What are some ways you can Texas-size your garden and maybe some ways that you can make it survive?
Yeah, so we want to make sure we're really water smart when we're doing this time of year, but you can still have a good garden. There's things like drip irrigation that you can put in your garden so that when you do water, you don't have very much that evaporates. So that's step number one, is setting up a watering system that's really efficient. Mm-hmm. And then improve those soils. That's the biggest thing you need to do. So use a nice garden soil or compost or organic matter to make them hold water better and use the nutrients that are available a little bit better.
All right. To talk real quickly again, if we could, about the watering. Again, what do you suggest in terms of watering the lawn or around your trees or whatever that's a good way to do it?
So you only have one time to water a week. You want to make sure you water deeply. And so we want to try to put down about 1 inch of water on our lawn, and that way it'll do really well. It'll still have the chance to look pretty good. And then when it comes to your trees, using soaker hoses or making sure you water around what's called the drip zone, which is out at the furthest reaching branches of your trees, because that's where most of the roots are that are going to take up water and nutrients. So get away from that trunk and get out a little bit further away where the branches end. That's where it's going to use the water the best.
All right, Dr. Mark Slavens, manager for Scott's Training Institute of the Southwest. Thanks. It's always great to talk to you, Mark. Thanks so much for joining us today.
All right, thanks, Mike.